Geek Show. Today's special guest, Dr. Patricia Dickenson. Hey everybody, this is the Coffee with the Geek program. It is February of 2026. This is my second interview of the 2026 year, and I'm really excited to have an amazing guest as always. My guest today is Dr. Patricia Dickenson, and she is a professor of teacher education. I'm really excited to talk about that. You are a curriculum author. You have worked in instructional design, so you're an expert in that, and over 2 decades of experience with K-12 education. Goes by fast, doesn't it?
It really does.
And some of your focuses are math, which is another good one because talking technology and math is always, I think, math teachers are usually some of the most unique, I think, people using technology in great ways. And you've been using technology. We can talk some AI, and just there's a whole variety of things. So let's really start with the easiest question of all today, which is, are you a coffee drinker, or what is your favorite beverage?
Absolutely, yes. And hi, Andy. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I am currently drinking a cup of coffee. I love French press, so I just make my own coffee. And then, of course, I have my frother, and I use
Oh,
my
nice.
almond creamer with a scoop of collagen powder, and we're good to go.
Wow, that's good. And the frothers are amazing, aren't they?
Oh,
We
yeah.
just got one at Christmas time.
I mean, I try to do like bullet style. So, like, it's almost like intermittent fasting where I don't actually eat till about noon, just because it gives your body some time to detox and reset. It's really good
Mm,
for your digestion. So,
wow, that's awesome. It sounds like you've got a nice routine planned around it. So, lots to talk about, and I forgot to mention you are on Instagram at Teach with Dr. D, and that's your YouTube handle as well. And you can also find you on LinkedIn. Those are nice places to connect professionally. But let's dig into the question that I always like to start off with, because that gives me a good sense of your background and where you've been and where you're heading. So, what's your educational journey? What's gotten you to this point?
yeah, absolutely. So, I actually came into education after spending quite a few years working in technology. I was kind of at the onset of the tech boom back in 2000. Living in San Francisco and working for several different tech companies as a tech writer, and worked for CNET. I'm not sure if you're familiar with CNET, but just, was exposed really to that tech world really early on, after just graduating from college. I did not have a vision of myself being an educator beyond beyond the fact that I've always loved working with kids. And I went to the Boys and Girls Club, and I did summer camps and was a counselor, and so that was always my sweet space. But what actually happened was I was working for a software company in Culver City, Los Angeles, and I started volunteering at a program. It was called The Wonder of Reading. And I would do, after work, or I would go to different schools and would just work with students, teaching them how to read. And most of it was just, being there, connecting with that kiddo, encouraging them to read, encouraging them to love reading. And I just fell in love with teaching. I just realized that, my heart was really in the classroom. I wanted to be in the classroom. And I made the transition. I started teaching with the Los Angeles Unified School District, teaching in urban schools, working with English language learners. And then from there, um, became a math coach for LA Unified, and also taught at the middle school and the high school level. So I've been in the classroom for quite some time, working in different capacities. And then in 2012, I started teaching online. I finished my doctorate in 2010 and started teaching one of the first adjunct professors for USC in their master's in teaching program that was completely online. It had synchronous pieces where we would meet with our students and I just loved working with teachers, loved working with teacher educators and inspiring them and teaching them all the nuances of what it's like to be in the classroom. And so yeah, I've been teaching online since 2012, while still having my foot in the door in the classroom. So it's been really a perfect journey for me, getting to do all the things that I love to do.
So that's a pretty action-packed 20 some years.
Yeah, all along having three kids of my own that,
Oh, there you go.
had to raise and get through the pandemic of Zoom school, which I was like, this is easy. We can do this.
I know. You were well prepared. So, probably one of the hottest topics in education, and really it goes beyond education, is AI.
Hmm.
You have a great YouTube channel where you post a lot of interesting things, and you sent me a really cool article about AI. So, let's dig into that. We might as well not put that off, right? So, what are your thoughts on AI? Where are we going with it? I guess, where are we headed, and what's your overview where we are now?
Absolutely. I always say, just like everything in life, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, right? And so AI is exactly where it should be right now. We are getting our feet wet, we're learning about it, we're discovering, the functions and the capabilities of things that we can do with AI. And obviously, there's different spaces of people like, oh my goodness, AI is taking over, is going to take over education, it's going to replace the classroom. And then there's people that are like, I'm all in. We need to be competitive. We need to be competing against other countries. And, AI should be in the hands of every single student, right? And so just like everything that we bring into this space of K-12 education, we have to do that with a balance, right? We have to do that with guardrails. We have to do that with insight about, how does this impact students? Where is the teaching happening? Where is the learning happening? So, in terms of technology, as I shared with you, I started my journey in technology and technology has always been in the classroom. I mean, at one point, the calculator was the most debated topic of, should students have calculators and calculators in the classroom? And then we moved into desktop computers and should students have access to online software that supports them in reading? And we've done a lot of research there. In fact, when I was a graduate student at UMass Amherst, I worked with a professor there who was doing research on assistive technology and supporting that for students learning how to read. And her research found that yes, having this representation and that tool available where all modalities are engaged, right? You're listening, you're hearing, you're seeing visually. It does increase students' achievement in reading. So we know that it's working. But what we need to do is we need to figure out ways that we can bring in these tools while not taking away from the power of the teacher and the importance of relationships which you need to have in the classroom. So, in terms of technology, it's been here. We're embracing it. We're looking at different models. We're thinking about how we need to frame technology so that it's not replacing learning, that we can actually still do a lot of great things in terms of teaching and learning and moving students, supporting them in ways that we couldn't without technology. Think about a student who's an English language learner. How can we lower the language barrier or provide opportunities for students to have access in their primary language if we don't speak their primary language, right? What resources and tools are available for that student? Well, with technology, we can provide just-in-time language translation. You could use something like Google Lens. The students can hold up the phone to the computer. They can see instantaneously. They can hear it in their mother tongue. No longer is that a barrier. So, in terms of technology, I feel like it's not a disruption, it's the next logical iteration. And assistive technology tools can provide access and remove barriers so that every student can engage and have an opportunity to learn and understand exactly where they're supposed to be. So think about Vygotsky and having students work in their zone of proximal development. So AI really does fit squarely at that intersection. We could do personalization, we can do adaptation, we can be responsive to language, reasoning, and process, and not just the answers. So, with this, we really want to think about how we can use AI intentionally and provide students with that higher level Bloom's taxonomy, right? So, moving beyond just giving them the knowledge, giving them the answer, but really having students do analysis, synthesis, critical thinking, deeper level of conceptual understanding. And that requires, training our teachers in how to use these tools, training our students in how to think with AI. And I do believe that if we just take the approach that we're going to ban something, right? We're going to ban AI. Andy, you remember the time when we were trying to ban, we one time thought, well, we'll ban skateboards. And then what did the kids do? They found other places that they can go and skateboard. And then what happened with those kids? They, felt like they didn't belong to the community because that was their space. In fact, I was talking to my son's best friend the other day, and he said, I love AI. I use AI for everything. It's like my best friend. And I was like, wow. So our kids are already using that. We know from the research that 70% of even greater are using AI on the daily. So the big question is how do we embrace this tool and use it in a way where we can actually engage in deeper learning?
Yeah, I really liked how you frame that, and it brings me back to Cheryl Nussbaum Beach once said this, and I've always this has always stuck with me, probably because the book was so impactful for me. But if you've ever read The Island of the Lord of the Flies,
Oh,
or The Lord of the Flies, yeah, if you remember, a group of kids stuck on the Lord of the Flies, you think, wow, this is going to be great, right? Like, um, kids will build forts and castles and they'll have fun, but they they learn it gets dark pretty fast because they don't have adult supervision. And yet, like we've done that, throughout time, especially with social media. We said, well, we just won't pay attention to it. And I'm talking as, parents and teachers just saying, well, let's just let them be out there in that space. And they're really on the island of the Lord of the Flies, and bad things will happen if we don't have our guidance. And I almost feel like taking the we're not going to touch it um, line of defense is
mhm.
again going to put kids on the island of the Lord of the Flies using a technology that they don't have like the grounding to use it responsibly and to use it appropriately. Because if we can give them that guidance, I think we can really make AI a powerful tool rather than something that's going to end up, you know, not being a productive use
Yeah,
for our
I
kids.
mean, and then we have to ground ourselves in terms of like what is the purpose of school, right? I mean, that's kind of like the bigger question. Anytime you go and you look at like a company or organization, they have their mission and their vision. So we might have to rewrite our vision statement. Like what is the vision of how we want schools to be? What is our mission? And if that means getting kids college and career ready, right? And if you've been on the World Economic Forum, that's an amazing paper to read about the future of jobs. AI is everywhere. So if our mission and vision is to prepare students for college and careers, how can we bring that AI into the equation, right? If our mission is vision to create a human-centered classroom where kids are learning things like empathy, compassion, right? Soft skills. How do we bring that into the equation? So again, like you were saying, Andy, we have to find that balance with AI, but we also have to have those guardrails and we have to teach our students how to use it critically. What are the limitations? What are the barriers? What are the ways that we can embrace it and use it so that we can't just be efficient? Yes, of course, we can use AI and get answers instantaneously, but really use it in a way as a critical partner in thinking and learning.
Do you teach college students, right? College prep?
I work with teacher credentialing.
Okay.
Yes. So graduate level classes.
So, how do you feel young up and coming teachers are approaching AI? Are they there yet? Are they advanced? Are they still learning like the rest of us?
Well, I've already put it into all the courses that I am course lead for at National University. So they are learning right away how to use technology, how to use AI as a co-partner. So, for example, one of the assignments, the students are writing lesson plans, and they're writing lesson plans through the lens of different types of learners that they might have. So, students that are neurodivergent, students that are language learners, students that might have some social emotional issues at home, maybe they're in foster care. Now, we know from the research that teachers tend to teach the way that they were taught, and their experience defines how they approach teaching and learning. So, if I'm a teacher who has very limited experience working with neurodivergent students, I'm not going to know how I should approach teaching students who learn differently. Okay. So with AI, now we're asking them to kind of use AI to get feedback. And so we teach them how to write a prompt using the parts framework that's out of Google Education. I am a, fifth grade teacher. I'm teaching dividing fractions. My students will are diverse students. I have, an English language learner who has limited English proficiency, evaluate my lesson plan, and give me feedback on how I can support the students in the academic language demand of this lesson. Students are loving it. I'm talking about our pre-service teachers. They are loving the fact that they can get real-time feedback, real-time critique of their lesson so that they can then reflect and think about how they would refine their approach to instruction. That has not been done before, and now it's possible with AI.
Ooh, um, that's that's really cool. There's a lot to unpack with that, but I think that's the excitement of it, right? And I think we need to develop that excitement across the both up and coming teachers and our current crop of teachers. Can you tell me about? Let's talk about your books. So let's just dig into it. Tell us about your books.
Sure. So I have two books. One is called Teaching Outside the Box, Technology Infused Math Instruction. And this book was first published in 2019. And it's basically the vision of the book was to support pre-service teachers in understanding Common Core, understanding how to approach, teaching students that are neurodivergent language learners. So we talk about the math language routines. We talk about daily routines like number talks, cognitively guided instruction. So it really goes over the whole gamut of what math instruction looks like through the lens of how do you infuse technology in each of these spaces for supporting students, student engagement, as well as student representation. Now, when I was a middle school math teacher, the last thing I wanted to do was break out some math manipulatives in my classroom. One, because they may be getting thrown across the room, used as weapons, and then I had to clean up, and I don't like to clean up after kids. But with virtual manipulatives, and I show my students, and we talk about this in the text, students are engaged, right? We're inviting them into their world. Students are playing Roblox, they're on Minecraft, they're creating virtual worlds, and now they can use these virtual manipulatives to really understand abstract concepts. For example, now they can model an equation using virtual manipulatives, and we can really get into that deeper level, which is having them explain their thinking, justify their thinking, analyze their equation, and critique the reasoning of others. So now we can really go into those standards for mathematical practice, which there are 8 of them, at a deeper level because we're using AI to support our students in this way. So the first book was called Technology Infused Math Instruction, Teaching Outside the Box. Wrote that with co-author Laura Lee Coddington, who's also a professor of teacher education. And this latest book that is coming out next month, it's called,
Excited.
it's been a lot of, I actually wrote it when I was in Thailand.
Wow.
I was in Thailand doing my yoga credential. Yoga, I'm a certified yoga teacher because I'm really all about balance. It's called Smart Teaching in the Age of AI. And basically, it has that, like I was sharing, that framework of how do I use this tool as a teacher? How can it help me design instruction, analyze assessment results, give students feedback? How can it help me think about, teaching in a way that I haven't taught before, right? I'll give you an example. I was teaching students composite shapes and very procedural knowledge. And I went to AI and I said, AI, can my students love art? Can you help me think of a way that I can teach composite shapes that brings in their interest of art? Well, it gave me this wonderful idea to actually have my students draw a cityscape. They were drawing using composite shapes, a city skyline, excuse me. And from there, I was also able to create a rubric. So that's how we can use technology for planning and to be more efficient in what we're doing. Another piece is like taking student assessment data, having AI give you another perspective, looking at students' IEP, analyzing it from that lens. What goals are students meeting? What next goals should students get? And as a math professor, I know students, teacher candidates have a hard time with understanding the progression of math. So, in essence, like where students are in their zone of proximal development and where do they need to be? And so, understanding like where they are in their ZPD and then what are the next steps for that student. So, AI can help us this way as well. I've also embedded the ISTE standards throughout the book. And so, it's not about just having the teachers use AI, but also having students use AI and giving students scaffolds, frameworks, prompt cards that they can use so that they can apply the tool of AI to either help them give them feedback on their writing, analyze the math problem, give them an understanding based on, maybe something that they're interested in. So it's just a way to kind of coach and give students feedback in real time. But there's so much more functionality that we can now do, right? Students can have snippets of code and they can make their own programs using AI. They can create a chatbot using AI. So that way, instead of just having, and I talk about this in the book, having students write a paper about a historical figure during World War II, they could create a chatbot that they can then share with their other students based on the information that they give AI. Other students can now interact with AI and they can learn from each other. So there's a lot of functionality there. I think we need to also give students the opportunity to use AI in a way that they can then create and they can analyze and think critically about the AI outputs.
Wow. So really excited about, I mean, again, that's the really fun stuff for us, right? The way to kind of capture this moment because it's really exciting. And your book sounds really fun and I can't wait for it to come out. When did you say the timetable was?
In March.
Okay.
I'll
So
send you a copy, Andy.
absolutely. All right. I love it. Please make sure it's signed.
Yeah, so the book has everything from how to use it for assessment, how to use AI for designing instruction, how to use AI with your students through, from PE to an art class to, if you're a history teacher. So I'm really covering like the whole scope of what AI looks like in across content areas because we also know from research that teaching for transfer is the highest level of learning. So if we can also bridge in that space, right? How we can teach across our content area, right? We see this emerging in a lot of schools now. They're embracing STEM and STEAM and maker spaces. I know we're doing a lot of that work out here in the Bay Area, but also infusing courses that, have like biochemistry or, ecosystems. So really kind of like thinking outside the box and stretching our students beyond like traditional courses.
Ooh, all right. Well, we filled up that half hour, and we could have gone much longer, but I do want to stick with my timetable here. So let me just do some speed geek questions. So these are super fast question answer. So just throw out a comment quickly. So,
Yeah.
what's your favorite social network?
Oh man, YouTube, because I got the
You,
channel there.
I know. It's funny how it started off as a video platform, but now it's almost an everything platform, right? It is a social network. How about your favorite educational blog? This one was a good one.
I love Edutopia. I just feel like it's the perfect balance of learning science, equity, and real classroom practice.
Yeah, it's excellent. The articles are good, they're timely, and plus there's a nice mix of technology and just pedagogy. And what's your favorite way to unplug
Well, I did
from
your hot
tech?
hot yoga. I did a hot yoga class. I actually taught a hot yoga class this morning. And I may be putting some videos on my channel. So I love yoga. I love meditation. Just it's super grounding for me. And I think, one of the benefits of AI is that it frees up more time for us so that we can do this kind of work on ourselves, right?
Mhm. That's actually a good point, and we'll finish with that because I, this is my own personal opinion. Microsoft is always kind of the stiff tech company, right? Like Apple's the cool company, Google's
Right.
kind of in the middle, and Microsoft is the stiffs, right? That's why that remember the Apple and Microsoft commercial a few years ago that used to have the hip, Apple guy and this, the suit and tie Microsoft. And I think they kind of embrace it, right? Because they don't really change. However, I will give them credit because their AI thing, Copilot, is actually, I think, a nice way to think of AI because it is your co-pilot. It's helping you.
Absolutely.
It's not something that's supposed to be taking over. It's helping you, and you just hit on it where AI really can be a mentor to us, or not a mentor, a helper to us, so that we can do other things that maybe we wouldn't have time for that are important.
Exactly. And in the book, I actually outlined a framework for different uses of AI. So you have your coach, your teacher bestie, your differentiator, your analyst AI tool. So exactly what you're thinking, Andy, here is that we have to think about it in terms of function and ways that it can support us, not taking over the space, but allowing us to really show up and be present and do our job in that space.
Awesome. Well, the bell is
About to ring.
yes. Yes, I've had the lights turn off, the phone go off, so what else could happen? But thank you so much. This has been just the conversation I needed to keep me inspired and boosted up, and can't wait to read your book, and I'll keep watching your YouTube channel. So keep up the great work.
Thanks, Andy.